Hello, all you beautiful beings, and welcome to the show. I'm Lane Smith Brown, and this is episode number 21 of the Unleash Your Life podcast. And today we're going to have a conversation about something called beautiful destruction. Adopting this philosophy has helped me make sense of so many things that have happened to me in my lifetime, and I trust it will do the same for you. This is the Unleash Your Life podcast, where you're going to learn to rewild yourself. I'm your host, Lane Smith Brown, and I'm a best-selling author and rewilding guide. And over the last 20 years, I've been guiding women back to their truest selves. You see, you were born wild with all the wisdom you will ever need to navigate your life in a beautiful and powerful way. Then, just like everyone else on the planet, you got tamed as you fell under the power and influence of others who were also tamed. All that taming you got as a kid has you convinced you are less powerful than you really are. I call all of that unconscious programming power leaks. And on this show, you're going to discover yours, and then you're going to choose to plug them so you can get back to the wild, wise, and powerful being that you are. So grab a coffee, glass of wine, or a favorite friend, or all three, and let's talk about what living your wild self can mean for you. Welcome back to the show. You understand the whole point of this podcast is to get all of us living from our own authentic power, right? To get us all to recognize the limiting beliefs and behaviors that have us playing a part that is so much less than the us that came into this world. We were clean slates with a desire to share something singularly perfect with the world. For most of us, our conditioning has caused us to build walls. And what we're doing here in the Unleash Your Life podcast is to build doors, to build openings so you can begin to remember yourself, to be yourself, and to share yourself. Whether you've already got an inkling about what that is, or you're living it already, or you're interested but skeptical, no matter where you are in your level of discovery, the concept of beautiful destruction is one that will do you well to understand and embrace, because it is how we all move forward in our lives. Resisting that change, or calling it terrible or random or ugly or a mistake, diminishes the gift and leaves us hanging out in limbo, when we could be using it as an excuse to step into our power. Let me tell you a story, okay? We moved back to our mountain home about 3 years ago now. When my mate originally moved here over 3 decades ago, it was one of those last places on earth, and was filled with hippies and individuals living off the grid, and those that worked in the mine. Over the years, it has been discovered by many more people, and they've come from all over the world. This place welcomes new residents like nothing I have ever experienced before. There is a curiosity in the people I've met, and they want to discover what gifts you have to contribute to their community. To me, this place smacks of reinvention and of finding oneself. Now, I'm not trying to idealize this place in any way. There are lost souls and disconnected people all over the world. But because of the energy I choose to live in, I've stumbled on others like myself who are searchers and seekers, and curiosity is at their core. Maybe that's why you're listening to this podcast, because you too want to be part of the change makers and those waking up to a new way of walking in the world. That all sounds so neat and tidy, doesn't it? Like it doesn't come with growing pains and discomfort. like you just wake up one day and life is all sunshine and roses. The truth is, more often than not, it comes from destruction. Beautiful destruction. Look, our town was originally a mining town, but as with many towns way back then, it was the natural resources that created the economy, until one day it didn't, and the mine closed down. Hundreds were left unemployed with no opportunities, and many left. It seemed hopeless. And then the town did what many towns have done. They reinvented themselves. It became a destination for skiing, biking, climbing, hiking, and all kinds of outdoor pursuits. A different type of economy grew, and people thrived once again. A mine that used to take resources was replaced by a community bent on preserving them. Beautiful destruction. I've met 3 women here in the last short while that speak to this, and although I do not know any of them very well, I'm going to give you a glimpse of the conversations that happened in our first encounters. One is a photographer. She came here years ago with a partner and became an investor in a local pub. The need for good food photography for their business had her learning how to take good food photos. Out of necessity, a gift, a love for her own creativity emerged. The marriage ended, and she was on her own with a young child and a need to earn a living. So she dusted off her camera equipment, switched from food to people, and built a beautiful business for herself and her kid. Resilience and adaptation. Beautiful destruction. Another woman was seriously injured in a car accident and left with a big back pain. And she took up yoga and breath work in order to ease and manage her discomfort. And it worked incredibly well. With such a dramatic transformation in herself, she decided to train to become a yoga instructor and breathwork coach, and is building a life around something she loves, and it makes the world a better place. Beautiful destruction. And just last week, I found someone who started a business to repair outdoor gear. I got the impression in our short conversation that she has taken quite a circuitous route and a painful one to get here, and never really planned to stay. We get that a lot around here. And she found herself wondering how she was going to make a living if she stayed. Now, we have about the coolest dump I've ever encountered. And we have 2 buildings on that site where people can place their used but still good stuff out for anyone to take. One day, she was driving by and noticed someone placing bolts of fabric on the shelves. So she got out of her car and asked what was going on. And he told her his mother had just passed away and had a house full of fabric that he needed to get rid of. So she followed him back to his house and took it all. And within a short time, restarted her pet clothing and outdoor gear repair shop that she'd had to leave behind on her circuitous and painful route to our wild and outdoorsy little city. She's found a sustainable way to stay, enjoy, and contribute to the community. Beautiful destruction. Now, I don't know enough about any of these women to tell you what their life philosophy is, what they are dreaming of for themselves, and what it is about themselves they are being called to remember. For now, I am just reporting back that out of the pain of a relationship ending, a career was born. Out of an injury from a car accident, a healing practice was born. And out of a geographical displacement of some kind and the discomfort that can come with starting over, a woman landed in a seemingly perfect location to dust off her sewing equipment and build a following, making and repairing outdoor equipment. All beautiful destructions. Something has to die in order for something else to be born. It is the way of the world, especially now. We're going through some unprecedented times. Old ways of moving in the world are being challenged. Nationalism is being challenged. Hierarchies, bias, prejudice, and brutality are being challenged. People are learning new ways of walking in the world. All beautiful destruction. Misogyny is being challenged and falling. Oppressive cultural and religious traditions are being challenged and falling. Gender roles and identities are being challenged and falling. Oh, many are still afraid, but so many more are becoming curious and desiring to be part of the change towards inclusion and new ideas. Beautiful destruction. Political parties hell-bent on supporting the top economic tiers are falling into something that smacks of enough for all and a desire to help those who require it, to lift them up and place them on a level playing field. Beautiful destruction. New companies are emerging with social consciousness built right into their corporate fiber. Social conscience before stockholder profits. Imagine that. Beautiful destruction. Many organizations are waking up to the fact that collaboration is the only way to get meaningful things done. It's no longer profits at all cost, but meaningful contribution at all costs. And it's working for many. Beautiful destruction. In the midst of a global pandemic, medical researchers from around the world are proving that we can work together on a common cure. The old ways of posturing for first place or hiding in secrecy are falling, and collaboration is emerging. Beautiful destruction. It's too early to say what else will happen as a result of this unprecedented global shift. But environmentally, you cannot deny the positive impact it is having by us consuming less and staying at home more. Yes, some businesses are failing and new businesses are emerging. Local economies are being supported by local residents. New technologies are being developed. Many families are thriving. Kids are learning in new ways and in less time. Humanity is adapting and pressing on. All beautiful destruction. You cannot have resilience if nothing changes. Change means something has to die. An idea, a way of thinking, a way of doing, a way of consuming, a way of being. You cannot have a better relationship, more love, more connection, more money, better health, or more opportunities if you are not willing to let go of the old patterns, paradigms, and stories. All of those power leaks need to be destroyed and replaced with something new. Beautiful destruction. Are you willing to embrace the change to experience the next iteration of yourself? Or will you shut the door and say this is too hard, too scary, too much work, too uncertain? Someone once famously said, "The only certainty is uncertainty." And we ponder that and say, "Oh yeah, that's right." And then we dig in our heels and say, "I'm only up for change in the areas where I'm okay with it changing." Yeah, change doesn't work that way, does it? Something has to break in order for the healing to begin. Beautiful destruction. Transformation, by its very definition, is that something that was goes through enough change that what was is no longer apparent. Now, there's a bit of irony in the work we're doing here, in that you came into the world as the being you came to be. And then you did a bunch of shit along the way that took you away from all of that. So the beautiful destruction you're doing is letting go of all the stuff you've learned. All the stuff that separated you from the truth of who you are. What you're destroying is the stuff that's not serving you. Can you see that? Oh, it's uncomfortable, but only because you don't know any better. It's like having difficulty reading the words on a page and then getting glasses and suddenly everything's crystal clear. It's like experiencing intense hunger and then sitting down to a beautiful meal. It's feeling all alone and isolated and then having someone join you on your journey. You were thinking, this is just the way it is. And then you experienced a new way. Beautiful destruction. How much are you being called to your version of what we're exploring here? What feels better? Trying to piece together what's left, or opening yourself up to something new and unexpected? Nothing changes if nothing changes. That will forever be true. The peace is never in the resistance. The peace is always in going with the flow and seeing where the flow will lead. There's a quote by Apollinaire, a French poet who died in 1918. But the words still ring true, and I have loved them for a very, very long time. And they go like this. Come to the edge, he said. We can't. We're afraid, they responded. Come to the edge, he said. We can't. We will fall, they responded. Come to the edge, he said. And so they came, and he pushed them, and they flew. Are you willing to go to the edge? It's a big question, but I think you're ready. I think you're here because you know you can fly. I jumped out of a plane once. I was so excited, filled with anticipation, and then I had to step outside the plane with my feet on these skinny little rails with the instructor behind me. He had told me earlier that my instinct was going to be to run back onto the plane, but I'd need to get over it and make the commitment. He was right. I was scared, but I managed to get myself out into the position where I could jump. And every instinct said, get back in the freaking plane lane. And then there was a, oh, to hell with it moment, and I let go of my grip. And we were off. All I could hear was my screaming. But it wasn't fear. It was pure exhilaration. And as my instructor recognized my joy, he took us on a long, slow, circular descent over the most brilliant of landscapes. And I landed safely on the ground with a grin on my face that lasted for hours. I did something that very few people do. And I didn't just survive. I had a blast along the way. Look, life is throwing all kinds of things at you right now. And you can duck and run. You can turn up the volume with something distracting. You can pull the covers over your head and wait until it's all over. Or you can move into the pain. Move into the discomfort. Be willing to go in a new direction. Be willing to look at the stuff that's holding you back. Tell me, what are you willing to let go of to get at what you want? Well, that'll give you something to think about until the next time, won't it? I trust you're willing to fly. I trust you can see this idea of beautiful destruction is full of nothing but promise and possibilities, because it is. And you don't have to do it all at once. And you don't have to do it all alone. Just start with one thing. Maybe it's learning to say kind things about yourself to yourself. Maybe it's trying something new, learning something new, reading something new, or meeting someone new. Maybe it's taking care of yourself, recognizing how wonderful you are, writing love letters to yourself. Maybe it's asking for a do-over with a friend or a mate, and starting over in some way with a commitment to see each other more clearly. Can you mutually decide to let go of old patterns that are not serving you and start something new? Maybe it's time to explore a new place to live, or a new kind of work. Maybe it's time to commit to letting go without knowing what's going to happen next. Now, people, pay attention here. Whatever you choose to do, be safe. I'm not suggesting that you put yourself in harm's way. I'm suggesting that you believe that you are more remarkable than you may be recognizing right now. So explore that. Come to the edge, he said, and he pushed them, and they flew. That's a good takeaway. Ta for now, women. See you next time. Thanks so much for being here and listening until the end. Well, I hope this show rocked your world a little bit. If you want additional resources, check out the links in the show notes or at lanesmithbrown.com. And before you go, please subscribe to this podcast. It's how we get these tools into the world, and this world needs more wild women standing in their authentic power. Do that for me, will ya? Thank you.